Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you, as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports. We're going to chat with him about the start to the season, what we've seen for some of these teams, the disappointments, the pleasantries, and what we can expect moving forward, and why it's too early to be making sweeping sort of thoughts and judgments on these teams. We're also going to be taking a little bit of a look forward to what we're getting in that Dodgers versus Braves series as well. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @G_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, had a fun day of baseball on Thursday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The regression monster appears to be coming for the Reds. They get swept by the Cubs. Cubs win this game by a count of 8-3. Shota Imanaga, once again, strong. 10 punch-outs, does allow a solo home run in this one as cousin Sal Stewart gets his 10th home run of the campaign, but just gives up that 1 run over the course of 6 innings. From there, Trent Thornton, a scoreless inning. You did have from there Gavin Hollowell give up 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings. He was taken deep for home run number 1 of the campaign for Blake Dunn. He was able to get her done before Daniel Palencia gets the final out of the game to be able to get a save. Brett Lauder, well, he made some noise in terms of giving up walks. 4 walks allowed, 3 runs allowed in 3 innings, even though he gave up 1 hit. That 1 hit happened to fly over the fence. Michael Conforto, second home run of the campaign. From there, Connor Phillips, see at the toilet bowl in this one. 5 runs allowed in an inning. From there, Lewis May was able to give you 2 scoreless innings. He also had 2 scoreless from Jose Franco, but by then, the damage had been done. Doing a lot of damage, the Washington Nationals, 7-5. They're able to take down the Minnesota Twins. Regression monster has come for them as well, and Simeon Woods Richardson continues to be terrible. 5 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. From there, Anthony Banda, pair of outs out the bullpen squirrels. You did have Taylor Rogers give you 5 outs out of the bullpen squirrels, and then John Klein comes in, pitches 1 1/3 innings. He allows 2 runs, including a homer. Going deep was Keibert Ruiz for his second home run in the campaign, and Jake Irvin, not strong here either. 4 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. Taken deep by Ryan Jeffers, 5th home run in the campaign. Bullpen from there wasn't bad. Orlando Revolta, he gave up a run in an inning, but Richard Dickey Lovelady and Gus Varlin combined for 2 scoreless innings, and BJ Poulin was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. For the Cleveland Guardians, they get some runs up on the board, and they take down the Royals by a count of 8-5. For Slade Sassoni, 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Tim Aaron and out of the bullpen squirrels. Connor Brogdon gives up a pair of solo runs runs in 1 1/3 innings. Bobby Witt Jr., 4th home run of the campaign. Vinny Pasquantino, his 5th, but Hunter Gaddis, pair of outs out of the bullpen. He allows a run of his own. Eric Zabrowski, an out scoreless, and then Cade Smith, he gets his 10th save of the season with a scoreless inning, and Seth Lugo gave up 3 runs in the first inning, just gave up a lot of contact. 4 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. From there, Daniel Lynch and Nick Mears, a scoreless inning, and Alex Lang, he gives up a run in an inning. The issue was 3 runs allowed by Eric Santola in 2 innings, including a home run going deep off of him. Bo Naylor, his 2nd home run of the season. Being able to go deep for a grand slam was the Colorado Rockies, 6-2. They get the job done against the Mets as they got down 2-0, but it was 2-2 in the 8th inning, and Craig Kimbrell, for some reason, was pitching in a tie game in the 8th inning, and Jake McCarthy took him deep for a grand slam. 2nd home run of the campaign. For Christian Scott, great Scott, he was fine. 1 run allowed in 4 2/3 innings. Oscar Brisbane gives up a run in an inning. Awesome Warren for outside the bullpen scoreless, and Kimbrell gives up that 4 spot in his inning of work, and Jose Quintana, he continues to be relatively okay. 5 2/3 innings, allows 2 runs. Juan Mejia, a scoreless inning. Brendan Bernardino, and out of the bullpen scoreless, and Antonio Sensatello, 1.11 ERA out of the bullpen thus far this season. He supplies 2 scoreless innings, so the Mets now 14-23. It's not going great for them. Going solid for the Pirates, though. 4-2. They take down the Arizona Diamondbacks. Zach Allen gets filled up for 4 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. Gives up a pair of bombs. Brandon Lau gets allowed for his 2nd home run in the campaign. Joey Bart is 2nd, and then you did have a trio of guys. Ryan Thompson, Paul Sewald, along with Braden Garcia, all come in for a scoreless inning. And Mitch Keller continues to be solid. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. Was taken deep by Corby Carroll. 5th home run in the campaign, but from there, Dennis Santana, Gregory Soto both give you a scoreless inning apiece, and Mason Montgomery and Isaac Madsen, they were able to combine for a scoreless inning of their own. The New York Yankees take it to the Walker, Texas Rangers. This by a count of 9-2 for the Rangers. Mackenzie Gore gets scored, giving up 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Jalen Beeks 2 runs allowed in a 1/3 inning. Cole Winn was able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, but then you would have a run given up in 2/3 inning by Tyler Alexander. Peyton Gray comes in for an inning. He gives up a run, and you did have a out of the bullpen scoreless as well from Gavin Collier. Rangers just not able to get a lot up on the board as it was a wholesale game for the Yankees. Paul Blackburn, he was able to end a scoreless inning, and then Brendan Beck in his MLB debut. 2 runs allowed in 3 innings. Does give up a home run to Ezekiel Duran. 2nd home run of the season, but Brent Edrick, Tim Hill, they combine for 3 scoreless innings. Jake Bird, Camilo Duvall, they're both able to come in there, supply a scoreless inning of their own. Not many scoreless innings for the Athletics offense as absolutely pound the tar out of the Philadelphia Phillies. This by a count of 12-1. Andrew Painter, well, he got splattered. 8 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings. Taken deep by Brent Rooker, his 4th home run of the campaign. Shea Langoliers, Shea Banks, his 11th home run of the season. And then Jacob Wilson, 3rd home run of the season, also off of Painter. And then Chase Shogert gives one up to Zach Aloff, 3rd home run of the season. Tanner Banks gives up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Shogert gives up 2 runs in 2 innings. Jonathan Bolin, a scoreless inning. And Garrett Stubbs, that would be a backup position player, scoreless inning as JT Gannon Juice. He gave up a solo home run to Kyle Schwarber, 12th home run of the season. That's all that he gave up. And then Brooks Kriske was able to come in, and he was able to be frisky enough to be able to lend a scoreless inning. The Miami Marlins find their way to victory, 4-3. They're able to take down the Baltimore Orioles. Max Meyer, solid start here, 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. And then Andrew Nardi, Michael Peterson, great name, Calvin Fauché, all lend a scoreless inning. Josh Eknes does give up a run in an inning, and for the Orioles, Cade Povich was not long for this game. 3 runs allowed over the course of 3 innings. Did give up a solo home run to Liam Hicks, 9th home run of the season. From there, the bullpen actually did a pretty remarkable job. Yunier Cano, don't you know, he and Dietrich Hens both gave 2 scoreless innings apiece. Keegan Aiken, a scoreless inning, but then Andrew Kittredge in 2/3 of an inning. He was on in the 9th inning. He is a victim of bad fielding as Kobe Mayo had a throwing error, so he gives up an unearned run in the 9th. So it's a walk-off error winner for the Miami Marlins, and Orioles now 17-20 this far this season. For the Slam Diego Padres, well, they are currently not slamming at the plate. They lose the Cardinals by a count of 2-1 in the late game. Cardinals now 22-15 as Matthew Liberatore, 1 run allowed in 6 innings. The Padres actually do go 1 of 1 with men in scoring position, and Fernando Tatis Jr. pair of hits in this game, but still 0 home runs. Cardinals bullpen, which has been shaky, they did their job. George Soriano, Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien, all lend a scoreless inning, and Michael King was the king. He gave up 1 in 6 innings. The problem was that was a home run to Alec Burleson. That was the 6th home run of the campaign, but that's all that he would give up. Bradley Rodriguez from there gives up a run in an inning. Wandy Peralta, Jason Adam, they both provide a scoreless inning, but Nothing doing on offense for the team. And then you did see the Tampa Bay Rays be able to get it done against the Boston Red Sox. They pulled this out in the ninth by a count of 8-4. As for the Rays, they were tied up 3-3 going into the sixth, and then they pull away late on the bullpen as Jake Bennett, 4 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. But from there, Greg Weissert, no outs out of the bullpen. He gives up a run. Taylor Semenijo, he gets a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but Ryan Watson, 3 runs allowed over the course of 3 innings, and Junior Caminero takes him deep, 10th home run of the campaign. Griffin Jacks provided some length, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, given up in 4 innings. Bullpen from there does their part. Hunter Biggie, 2 scoreless innings. Kevin Kelly, Cole Sulzer, they both supply a scoreless inning. And then you had Garrett Clevenger provide an inning. He does give up a run along the way, but the Tampa Bay Rays, 25-12 now, second best record out there in the American League. We'll talk about that a little bit more with Danny Vietti on the flip side. And if you are taking a look at what we're getting trend-wise right now in Major League Baseball, has been a bit of an overwhelming season thus far. The overs are hitting at 52.7%, 288 overs, 259 unders, and if math serves me correct, I believe we've had 16 pushes along the way as well. Favorites are hitting at 55.8% on the money line, 308 and 244, and among those favorites, we have now seen 63 of them not cover the run line, and that's been especially true over the last 7 days. Last 7 days, favorites, a solid 54 and 39 on the money line, but out of those 54 favorites, 14 did not cover the run line. Meanwhile, the under has a lead on overs over the last 7 days, 47 unders, 45 overs, and 3 pushes along the way. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do chat it up with our good friend Danny Vietti of CBS Sports right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family podcast.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Danny Vietti aboard. He does such an excellent job taking a look at this great game of baseball over at CBS Sports. He does a great podcast of his own as well, the Wake and Rake podcast. Search for the Wake and Rake podcast wherever you find this podcast, and you're going to be able to run into that as he does that along with Will Middlebrooks, former World Series champion, and on this podcast, more notably known for being a former Milwaukee Brewer. That's my favorite team, so we always have to throw that in there. Danny, he's doing such great work out here on the West Coast along with myself, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at his first and last name, Danny Vietti. Last name is spelled Vietti. And Danny, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the plug, first and foremost. And secondly, thanks for having me on.
Always great to have you aboard, Danny. And Danny, it has been a wild first 6 or so weeks of the season. Now we're starting to get a really good sample size of these teams. And just what is standing out to you? Because when I take a look at baseball through the first 6 weeks of the season, there certainly have been some good surprises, but I feel like the bad surprises have been much more jarring than the good ones.
Yeah, there's a few different things. I mean, first and foremost, the American League just being what it is pretty jarring to me. You know, coming into yesterday, there were 3 teams with a winning record in the American League. And those 3 teams, just go down this list, it's the Yankees, Rays, and A's. Anytime you see a list with the Yankees, who are the Yankees, historically one of the richest most historical franchises in MLB history. And then you pair them up with the Tampa Bay Rays, who are historically one of the lowest spending franchise in MLB history, an expansion team. And then you pair them up with the Athletics, who aren't even associated with the city. Now, they have bumped their payroll up this season, and they are expecting to compete because of the offensive lineup that they have. But anytime you see a list with Yankees, Rays, and A's, you start to question what exactly that is. And I think coming into the season, if you would have told a lot of people, hey, the only 3 teams in the American League with winning records would be those 3 squads after the first month and a half, be some people scratching their heads, that's for sure. And you compare that, you flip that over to the National League side of things. I mean, shoot, the National League Central has 5 teams in that division alone that has winning records. Reds, Brewers, Pirates, Cardinals, Cubs, all over 500. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out, is the American League having a down year across the board, or is it just competitive across the American League to the point where they're just kind of beating up on each other?
Yep, that has been something that I've been asking myself as well, and I've been sending out some of those tweets as well, just displaying the fact that the NL Central has so many winning teams and the American League has had so few. And just how do you personally take a look at that? Because I personally do think that the American League is just inferior to the National League thus far this season. And I do think that if you're one of those teams, like the Seattle Mariners, who's had a little bit of a rough start to the season, the Texas Rangers, insert your team that's like a few games below 500 here, you have to have a lot of hope right now if you're in the American League. Whereas if they were in the National League, it'd be an uphill battle to try to be able to get back in the playoff picture.
I would need to do a deeper dive on how the National League has fared versus the American League and vice versa. But just looking on the surface, it feels like the National League has relatively stayed healthier than American League teams. Like Tarek Skubal is going down. He just had his surgery. He's going to be down for at least the next month and a half, possibly 2 months. That's a big hit to that Tigers rotation that is so reliant on their 2-time Cy Young Award winner. And then you look at the Toronto Blue Jays, your American League defending champs, all season long, ever since first pitch. I mean, they have just been dropping like flies from their offense with Springer to their starting rotation, are finally starting to get healthy with that starting rotation, but they have just been hit hard with the injury bug. Boston Red Sox have just been chaos since first pitch. That doesn't help their things. That hasn't been as much health. It's been more so front office changes, managerial changes, etc. American League Central most notably has been mid for years. Now, Cleveland usually ends up going on a run come postseason time every single year, and you get a lot of fans that get behind Cleveland because of their low payroll, and they're usually playing somebody like the Yankees or a big payroll team. But the American League Central is what it usually is. And then you look at the American League West, Athletics are competitive, but they just flat don't have enough pitching depth. Their offense is one of the best in baseball, but they don't have enough pitching to be able to keep them in the games. Seattle, the defending champs in the American League West, they have great pitching, but they have a strikeout percentage that is one of the highest in baseball. And when things are going right for the Mariners offense, it's good. But when things are going bad for the Mariners offense, they are very strikeout prone. Again, I'm just looking at the surface here and what the stats are telling me. It feels like the National League has been able to, again, stay relatively healthier. And there's been a little bit more chaos going on the American League side of things.
Yep, there certainly has been a lot of chaos for the American League. My goodness gracious. We have been seeing a big time mess there as Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports, is showing to be on the Baseball Betting Show. And you've mentioned the chaos in the American League. Somehow, some way, the 2 most chaotic teams in all of baseball right now actually, in my opinion, reside in the National League. I recognize that the Red Sox made a managerial change, but so did the Phillies. Now, as we're doing this on Thursday, they're getting pounded by the Athletics, but prior to that game on Thursday, they were rounding into form under Donnie Baseball, which you'd love to see, and Mets have looked a little bit better recently, but 2 series against the Angels and the Rockies, I personally am going to need to see a little bit more there. But what do you make out of these 2 teams? Because the Braves are running and hiding with the NL East right now. And while it's been a little bit better for the Phillies, I think that they can climb back into it. Even though the Mets have won a few games here over the last week or so, it's just been a rough start to the season for them.
Yeah, they're starting to get going. I disagree with the decision to let Rob Thompson go, especially that early on in the season. To me, it felt like you were firing your manager 2 miles into a 26-mile marathon. You look at the Dodgers last season, supposedly one of the greatest teams of all time, one of the biggest payrolls, just stacked with all-stars and MVPs. Well, even the Dodgers last year, starting on July 4th, they went through a 12-20 span. 12-20 across 30 games for a month span. Well, when Thompson and Alex Cora were both let go this season, they were respectively, I think it was 27 and 26 games in. And so I think there's just a little bit of recency bias with some of these front offices. When you get off to a rough start, people tend to hit the panic button, and in my opinion, way too early. You look at the 2019 Washington Nationals. They were 8 games under 500 after the first month. They went on to win the World Series. 2021 Atlanta Braves, 6 games under 500 through the first month of the season. They went on to win the World Series. I disagreed with the decisions. With that being said, Phillies are playing better baseball right now. They've won 8 of their last 10. But to your point, they're going to be playing Colorado in this next series, and that should be some winnable games. Boston, after that, more winnable games. So far, it's looking like a good decision, but it's only been a week or so since the firing. And I personally blame it on the starting pitching not playing up to their caliber rather than the deficiencies or lack thereof of Rob Thompson.
Yep, and getting back Zach Wheeler, that will help you out quite a bit as well, because ever since he's returned, the Phillies have been able to stabilize things a little bit more, so that's been massive for them. And I did mention it, with the struggles of the Mets and the Phillies, it's been the Atlanta Braves running and hiding with the division. And just what have you made out of their start? Because for the last 2 years, you talk about injuries in the American League, there's been no more team, in my opinion, that's been riddled by injuries than the Atlanta Braves. When they were at their peak in 2023, they're averaging about 5.75 runs per game. They're right back in that neighborhood this season, and I don't know if they quite duplicate that 2023 season, but it certainly does, in my opinion, look like they are fully back in full force, even with Ronald Acuna Jr. not doing much and being banged up himself this year.
Yeah, even with Ronnie, their MVP, not playing up to his standard. Even with Spencer Strider starting the season on the injured list, Spencer Schwellenbach injured list, Schmidt-Shaver injured list, Hurston Waldrop injured list. They've been hit hard with the injury bug even still to their starting rotation. To your point, fortunately, this season offensively, they've been able to stay healthy. And thank goodness for Drake Baldwin. I mean, this is a kid that when he was brought up, sure, Atlanta Braves fans were excited about him, one of their top prospects in their system. But across Major League Baseball, there just wasn't a whole lot of noise, especially when you considered the fact that they had Sean Murphy at catcher, and they seemed to have a force behind the backstop already. Well, Drake Baldwin's coming in and not only taking over the starting spot from Sean Murphy, but he's hitting leadoff for the best offense in baseball. Right now, he's considered an MVP candidate, and this Atlanta Braves offense is just clicking on all cylinders. Matt Olson, likewise, another MVP candidate. Michael Harris is finally back to the Michael Harris that we all know and love from a couple years ago. Austin Riley still hasn't gotten things going yet. You mentioned Ronnie Acuna hasn't gotten things going yet. So things are going well for Atlanta. Indications are with Strider potentially coming back, Acuna, Riley get going a little bit. Things could actually get better for this team that already has the best record in baseball.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I've been blown away by what we've seen for the Atlanta Braves this far this season, and everyone wants to have the Dodgers as a favorite, and rightfully so, but we're going to have ourselves a whale of a series coming up this weekend, starting on Friday with Chris Sale going up against Emmett Sheehan. And just how do you take a look at those two in the National League? Because I do think that you have to go with the Ric Flair mentality. In order to be the man, you got to beat the man, and the Dodgers the last 2 years have been the man, but at the same time for the Atlanta Braves, I feel like they're knocking right there on the door, and I think that this is going to be, shall we say, a good litmus test for both of these teams early on during the season.
It's just so tough to see what the season and what the rosters are going to be 6 months from now. A litmus test, sure, but again, I don't think we're seeing Atlanta at full strength right now. We're getting the Dodgers close to full strength right now, but I mean, still, like Mookie Betts on the injury list right now, Tommy Edman on the injury list right now. It's
Edwin Diaz.
Snell, there you go. There's still so many guys that are on the shelf right now, and come postseason time, sure, you're going to have more players on the injured list. That's kind of my point. It's like we just don't know who's going to be on this roster. We have a trade deadline. There's going to be moves. Alex Anthopoulos loves to make additions at the deadline. Dodgers front office love to make not just moves, but they like to make blockbuster deals at the deadline. So it's a good foreshadowing, I think, of two of the best teams in baseball and what should be two of the best teams in baseball 6 months down the road. But again, I don't know if we know what Atlanta is capable of yet, because I still think they have players that are coming back and not at full strength. So it'll be a fun series to watch. It's just, I always tend to remind myself it is still May.
Yep, it still is May, and it's going to be very interesting to see what we're going to be getting in that series. And just looking across baseball, is there a team or two that you look at right now that maybe has gotten off to a good start to the season and has been a surprise? Like, we talk about so many of those younger teams out there in the NL Central. You mentioned the Rays, what have you, but is there a team or two that maybe has surprised us far that you think that they've got some legitimate staying power, and you think that maybe, even though a lot of people might be seeing a little bit of regression for them, you don't quite see that regression unlike maybe a lot of other people?
I don't know if I'd say I'm like a huge believer in this team, but I will say one of the best products to watch in Major League Baseball right now is the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yes.
The beauty of this team is not that they have a starting rotation of Martinez, Rasmussen, McClanahan. I mean, they have a rotation that is dominant. Strikeouts per nine through the roof. It's not just that they have a bullpen that also has strikeout per nines through the roof, and they have funky arm slots, and they are the Tampa Bay Rays. What the Rays do that is so different than any other team in baseball is they play small ball. You know, I've seen them win games against the Yankees earlier this season when they didn't swing the bat one time in extra innings. They had a sacrifice bunt, they had a safety squeeze that scored a run, and then they had a ground ball to Jazz Chisholm, and they ended up winning the ball game. It's wonderful to see this beautiful game of baseball. It's so cyclical. You know, things that seem to be dead come back around, from batting average to bunting. Stolen bases are back in style now. If you are a baseball fan from the 90s, even early 2000s, and you liked seeing the sacrifice bunts, you like seeing stolen bases, small ball happening, take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays, because the speed of Seti Mullins, the speed of Chandler Simpson, the small ball, the slap hitters within this lineup, it's fun to watch Tampa Bay have this much success playing at such a different style that is being incentivized in today's game.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I love what I'm seeing out of the Tampa Bay Rays. From a betting perspective, they've been providing me with a whole lot of plus money thus far this season, which I absolutely love to see. Feel like a lot of people are sleeping on them. And then they have guys that, in my opinion, should be getting much more fanfare. Yandy Diaz, Junior Caminero in that lineup. Those guys are able to hit it. Jonathan Aranda. They've been able to get more out of the catcher spot, which has been eluding them for so many years. So I'm right there with you. I think that the Rays, they are going to be a force out there in the American League. Don't know if they quite keep up with the Yankees, but outside the Yankees, who else is going to be your number two team right now in the American League? So right there with you, Danny. And I know you, Danny, are doing such an amazing job looking at this great game of baseball. You do a great job with the Wake and Rake podcast. You do a great job with all of your work over at CBS and so much more. So love to get people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, new episode for the Wake and Rake podcast coming out on Friday at Wake and Rake Pod across your social handles. And my personal handles will be, share all those links out too, at Danny Vietti on Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, and all your favorite social media platforms.
Absolutely. Danny is doing such an incredible job looking at this amazing sport, and every single time he joins me, on such great insight. So big thanks to Danny for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Always a pleasure to be joined by Danny Vietti. He's doing such great work over at CBS Sports, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. He does an excellent job as well with the Wake and Rake podcast. You can find that podcast wherever you get this podcast every single time he joins me. Learned such great insights and did so once again today. So big thanks to Danny for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas station order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order, and Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Let's get her started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It's the Rockies on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Jesus Luzardo is on the bump for the Phils, and Chase Dollander is on the bump for the Rockies. Rockies are between plus 162 to plus 185 underdogs. Minus 195 to minus 220 is that number on the Phils. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 8. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105 on the 7.5. Over is minus 120. And the under is even money. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Philadelphia Phillies, you're finding that right around about even money and pretty much minus 105 or better. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Phillies on the run line. It is a Rockies bunch that just still has been rough with regards to scoring away from home. Last year, they were averaging 2.8 runs per game away from home. That was dead last in the big leagues. They've now climbed out of the bottom 5, but still averaging fewer than 4 runs per game away from home. So you do have to have your fear and trepidation there. And for Jesus Luzardo, I just still think that he's doing for a lot of positivity. You take a look at the ERA and the fielding independent numbers, and they just simply don't line. Right now, he's been supplying the team with a 5.09 ERA, but a 2.72 fielding independent. He's giving up 0.9 home runs, 2 walks per 9, getting 11.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's just been a really unlucky pitcher over the last few years. You just take a look at the batting average on balls in play, and it has been astronomical. 368 this year, 324 last year. You know that you're just running bad when you have those sorts of numbers. Meanwhile, for Chase Dollander, I recognize that his last outing wasn't necessarily his best, but he's really been putting it together this far this season. A 3.38 ERA. Strikeout stuff, it's coming along. Last year was just 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, 349 fielding independent. He's backed up by a bullpen that has seen their numbers decline quite a bit, but still hovering right around 20th in terms of bullpen ERA. As strange as it sounds, when your home ballpark is Coors, is actually not too bad. Antonio Senzatella has been absolutely tremendous with a sub-2 ERA out of the bullpen. Failure of a starter, but really good out of the bullpen. And then the likes of Juan Mejia, Jimmy Harrigan, along Jaden Hill, they were all able to supply a sub-4.25 ERA last season. Pretty much all those guys are right around there. I think Hill has like a 4.26 ERA, but they've been good. Victor Vodnik has hit the toilet bowl this year, over a 7 ERA, but he should be able to round into form a little bit more. Flip side for the Philadelphia Phillies, it's been a rather rough bullpen to begin the season, but now you get Yohan Duran, your main closer, off the injury list. Bryce Keller is still supplying an ERA above a 4, and Tanner Banks has not been great, but getting back Ryan Kerkering is big. He's been giving you an ERA of right around about 2.10, and for the Phillies last year, they were a top 3 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation at home. It's been very much a bit more rough for them thus far this season, but you do have Justin Crawford, who's been able to about a 265. You still get great power out of Kyle Schwarber along with Bryce Harper. Harper, 9 home runs, over 350 on base. Schwarber only hitting like a 207, but double figure amount of bombs, 350 plus on base. You just need more out of Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, these infielders throwing there the catcher spot, because you've had JT Realmuto in and out of the lineup. And for the Colorado Rockies, Mickey Moniak has been tremendous. 9 plus home runs, hitting above a 300. Did have big home and road splits last year. He's been able to work on those a little bit. You still need a little bit more out of some of these ancillary guys, because you just haven't been able to get a lot out of the backup guys like Ezekiel Tovar hitting below the middle line of 200. Brendan Doyle has not been able to get going, but likes of TJ Brownfield, Tristan Freeman hitting above 275 are encouraging. Did set my total at 7.6. Personally, I'd rather have an 8 under rather than a 7.5 over, because I believe even both of these pitchers. And for the Phillies, I'm going to be willing to take the run line, actually seeing that now at plus money, so anything better than a minus 105 there. 953, 954 on the card. It's the Nationals. They're going to be on the road against Miami Marlins. It's the MLB debut of Robbie Snelling for Miami, and Foster Griffin goes for Washington. Washington is an underdog between even money to plus 105, minus 122 to a minus 145. That number on Miami, 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8.5. Unders minus 120. The overs even on the 8. Overs minus 115 to minus 120. Unders between even a minus 105. I'm going to be willing to back Mr. Snelling. I set the Marlins at a minus 138. For Snelling, 186 ERA at the minor league level, 13.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. Very impressed there. He's a highly rated prospect, and I do think that he's going to live up to his billing. Did actually downgrade him a little bit because this is this MLB debut, but I just flat out think that Foster Griffin is going for aggression. I mean, good start to the season, 227 ERA after 3 seasons overseas, but 432 fielding dependent, 3.2 walks, a little bit of a home run allowed per 9 innings, less than 7.5 punch-outs per 9 innings. Now, it's a Miami Marlins team that is not necessarily hitting for a lot of power. They've been in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of home runs that are per at-bat basis last 2 seasons, but they have a trio of guys that hit above a 300 for this unit. Liam Hicks, Otto Lopez, Javier Sanja have been very impressed by those guys. Esteury Ruiz has been able to give you a bit of something. They're now getting back Christopher Morel along Kyle Stowers. That should be a lot ball with the power numbers because outside of Liam Hicks, who's been able to give you 7 home runs entering in the day on Thursday, really nobody else give you over 3 home runs, and you do need more out of some of these guys like Jacob Marcy, Alberto Hernandez, who've been hitting below 200. And then for the Washington Nationals, this has been a team that has been in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of overall run creation, but you take a look at what they've been able to do against righties, against lefties, and it has been a very stark difference because against left-hand pitching, they're putting up a 353 on base. That is a top 5 mark in all of baseball. And then against right-handed pitchers, they are in the bottom 10 in terms of overall batting average because you've got CJ Abrams, James Wood, who have just been able to supply the mail for the team. 8+ home runs, over a 360 on base for both of those guys, but who's good to be able to step up around them and be able to provide, for lack of a better term, a little bit more stability because you've been able to have someone like a Dallin Lyle be able to hit a little bit above a 250 for this unit, but some of these other ancillary guys are hitting like a 235 or lower. Jacob Young has been hot and cold. Nasim Nunez, Keibert Ruiz, you just need a little bit more there. Brady House, he's hitting for only about a 300 on base. Christian Meade has been hitting the skids as well. And for the Nationals, they continue to be a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. This despite the fact that Paxton Schultz, PJ Poulin, sub 375 ERA. You can throw in there Gus Farland as well. Dickie Lovelady has been solid with the ERA, but I really don't trust in him. And for the Miami Marlins, this is a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. This despite the fact that you've had a few struggles out of the likes of Calvin Fauché, Anthony Bender with above a 4 ERA, but John King has come over from the Cardinals, supplying a sub 3 ERA. Andrew Nardi is a guy that you're able to trust in usually. He's been rough this season. I think that he's going to round into form. 692 ERA after that was sub 350 last season, but Tyler Phillips has made up for it with a sub 2 ERA like Bakar. Good long guy, and I do think that Snelling is going to be able to, well, sniff a victory here in his first start. I did sub total at an 8.2. Personally, I would rather have an 8 over rather than an 8.5 under. I do think that the nerves might get to Snelling a little bit, so like the 8 over. And for the Marlins, we'll lay up to a minus 137 on the money line. 955, 956, the Diamondbacks playoffs to the Mets. And Noah McLean is on the bump for the Mets, and Ryan Nelson goes for the Diamondbacks. This is a game that in most places is currently off the board, just coming on there with the Mets being between about a minus 142 to a minus 150 favor, plus 120 to plus 125. That number on Arizona, 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. I did sub total at an 8.3. I'm thinking that there's going to be some positivity here for Ryan Nelson. It has been an absolutely awful start to the season for him. A nice hearty 6.61 ERA. After last year, it was a 3.39 ERA, 3.73 fielding independent. This year, 2 home runs, 3.7 walks allowed per 9 innings, but it is a Mets lineup that has really been struggling thus far this season. Currently, they are 29th in the big leagues, averaging about 3.65 runs per game, and that was after a series at Coors, so they have not really been able to get online. For Juan Soto, it's been solid. He's come off the injury list, been able to give the team a few home runs, about a 390 on base. You take a look at everyone that had an at-bat yesterday. The only 2 players outside of Soto hitting above a 243 right now. MJ Melendez, he's right now hitting a 325, and Austin Slater is seeing very sparing action, like Marcus Semien, 285 on base, giving you no power. Mark Vientos, he's been hot and cold. He's been able to give you a few bombs, but he's hitting for a 280 on base. Bo Bichette has been a big giant waste of money. Andy Ibanez is hitting a 100 like you just go down the list. You're getting no production there whatsoever. They threw Craig Kimbrell in a high leverage situation yesterday. That's not great. Now, Brooks Raley, Oscar Brisbane, they've been able to give you sub 3 ERA, but they used Brisbane yesterday. Luke Weaver's turning around in form, but Devin Williams is just absolutely awful with a 6 ERA. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, yeah, this is a team that's in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. I don't really trust in Paul Sewell, but Juan Barrio's actually been quite good in this bullpen, a little bit north of a 2 ERA. Taylor Clark has been able to give you some good innings. And for the Diamondbacks, last year they were a top 5 team in terms of run creation. A little bit down from that this year, but Ilyarmo Vargas hitting over a 340 with 5+ home runs has been a nice find. Now they're getting Gabriel Moreno back off the injured list, so that's going to be able to help them out. Lourdes Gurriel is yet to be getting going with the power, but spent the early part of the season on the injured list. He's starting to be able to recover, and Corbin Carroll, a little bit cold with the bat recently, but still over a 325 on base, 5 home runs. So do think that they're going to be able to get things moving. And for Noah McLean, he's put together a really nice season. Again, it's just the schlubs around him that I think is really going to be costing him. For McLean, he has been a really good strikeout artist for the team. 11.7 strikeouts to 2.5 walks per 9 innings, 0.5 home runs per 9, 297 ERA, 2.12 fielding independent. But I just don't trust in the rest of the team around him. I think that McLean does his part. Nobody else does. So plus 120 or better. Looking at the Diamondbacks on the money line, set them at a plus 118, and like the under, so I tell it an 8.3, 957, 958 on the card. It is the Cardinals. They are going to be on the road against the Slam Diego Padres as Griffin Canning is on the bump for the Pods, and Michael McGreevy goes for the Cardinals. Cardinals are an underdog between plus 120 to plus 125, minus 142 to a minus 150 is at number on Slam Diego. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. The under is even a minus 105, and for the Pods, I set them at a minus 134. If you're taking a look at laying a run half with San Diego, you're going to be finding that right around about a plus 150 or so. I would need more like a plus 160. I think that when it's all said and done, we are going to be able to get that north of plus 130 number on the Cardinals when we get the dime lines, and anything at plus 135 or greater, I will be in on the Cardinals on the money line. For Griffin Canning, nice first start, gave up 1 run over the course of 5 innings, but in that start, he did give up a home run. Last year, he had over 4 walks per 9 innings, had 3 walks in 5 innings in that start, so still a little bit concerned about the command. Meanwhile, for Michael McGreevy, you know that he's going to do a good job in terms of not hurting himself. 1.1 home runs, 1.8 walks allowed per 9 innings, but only 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he needs to do a little bit more there. 2.52 ERA, 4.18 fielding dependent. Does go up against the San Diego Padres lineup that they've been a little bit cold at the plate recently, and for Fernando Tatis Jr., it's been all season long. He's got 0 home runs right now. That is just not great, to say the least, but Xander Bogaerts all of a sudden has not been a waste of money. How about him hitting at 275 with 7 home runs entering into this series? The catcher spot has been very mixed and match. They haven't been able to get a lot there. Luis Campusano has been solid, but he's been in and out of the lineup. Miguel Andujar is hitting about a 300 for this unit. Ty France, in a small sample size, he's been able to above a 275 as well. But Manny Machado, even with 5 home runs, hitting less than a 215, you just expect more out of your superstars. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, Jordan Walker, 10 home runs and hitting above 300 has been great. J.J. Weatherholt, Ivan Herrera are both hitting between like a 240 to 250, but they both been able to give you over a 330 on base. You've got Nolan Gorman, who I really don't trust him too much, hitting at 225 with 5 home runs. Think that you need a little bit more there, but Nathan Church, who's been dealing with a little bit of ailment, he's back to fold for the team. Victor Scott at the bottom lineup has not been great, and speaking of not great, the Cardinals have been a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA, but it feels like they're starting to figure it out. They've been giving fewer innings to Ryan Stanek, who's been awful with over a 6 ERA. Matt Savanson has been awful as well, but Gordon Gassefo, sub 3 ERA. Riley O'Brien has been solid. Jojo Romero last year had a sub 325 ERA. It's been a little bit up from that this season, but it does feel like he's starting around into form a little bit more. For the Padres, last year they were number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA. They aren't this year. A big byproduct of that is that they had that series of Mexico City, and you've also had Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon have a little bit of a rough start to the season. Both of these guys supplying an ERA above a 450, but they should be able to round into form. Both had a sub 350 last season. Jason Adam back right around about a 2 ERA. Mason Miller has been probably the best closer in all of baseball, so interesting circumstance here. I do think that both of these starters give up some runs, so I did set a total here of an 8.3. I like that 7 after the over. And for the Cardinals, right now not seeing it on the board, but when we get the timeline, should be able to get a plus 135. That'll be putting me on their money line. 959, 960 on the card. It is the Braves, and they are going to be on the road facing off against the LA Dodgers. Chris Sale hopes to not sell for the Braves, and Emmett Sheehan is on the bump for the Dodgers, and the Dodgers, they do find themselves as a slim favorite here. You're going to be getting them between minus 115 to minus 120. Even money to minus 105 is that number on Atlanta. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 120. The over is even. Seeing one straight 8. The over is minus 120. And the under is even money. Did somebody tell it an 8.2. Mostly seeing 8.5. So on an 8.5, I am going to be in on the under. Chris Sale, I recognize that the fielding independent is a little bit up from that 2.12 or so ERA, but he's still getting well over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He really doesn't give out a lot of walks. I love the way that he's been able to put things together this far this season. And for Emmett Sheehan, the swing and miss stuff for him has been relatively slow, but it's just been not a good go of it for him this far this season. After last year, he was able to supply a sub 3.25 ERA that's up to a 5.23 with 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. And strangely, with the LA Dodgers, this has been a group that has had a difficult time in terms of being able to just duplicate the success that they've had away from home rather than at home. Away from home, this is a team that is in the top 3 in the big leagues with darn near 6 runs per game. That goes down to about 4.6 runs per game at home. That's more around about 13th in the league. Meanwhile, for the Atlanta Braves, they do lead the big leagues with about 5.6 runs per game. They have been absolutely tremendous there, and they're doing so with Ronald Acuna Jr. not being effective when he's been out there. He's now dealing with injury. That, in my opinion, really doesn't matter too much at this point because Matt Olson has given you 10 plus home runs. Jake Baldwin is hitting a 300, and he's been able to give you 8 plus bombs. Ozzy, Albies with 7 plus home runs, hitting above a 300. So many guys, Mauricio Dubon, Dom Smith, these guys are all moving the line for the team. And for the LA Dodgers, Andy Baez has been amazing, coming off of a 3 home run game. He's hitting well above a 300 thus far this season, so he's been able to do his part. Shohei Ohtani might not be hitting for the same amount of power that he did a season ago, but Freddie Freeman, you know that they're going to reach base. Freeman has been able to hit about a 280 with Ohtani, 390 on base, 6 home runs, so off to a solid start. Just expect a little bit more out of Kyle Tucker, but it does feel like he's starting around in form, but also for the Braves, they've got the leg up in terms of bullpen. The Dodgers have been a little bit above league average with regards to their bullpen. They're in the top 10 in terms of ERA. You do have Tanner Scott starting to return to that great form that he had 2 seasons ago. Alex Vesia, Kyle Hurt, these guys will actually give you a sub 150 ERA, but Will Klein has been a little bit shaky from time to time. Edgardo Enriquez, it feels like he's still trying to find his way at the big league level. And then on the other end for the Atlanta Braves, Tyler Kinley, since they picked him up at the trade deadline last season, he's had a sub 235 ERA in a Braves uniform. They get Raciel Iglesias off the injury list. Robert Suarez was a closer with the Padres last year. He has been very rock solid. Heck, you've been able to get some good innings out of Ronaldo Lopez in the few long relief appearances that he's been making as well. So I do think that the Atlanta Braves actually should be the favorite here. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line, set them at a minus 116, and set my total at an 8.2, so like the 8.5 to the under. 961, 962 on the card. It is the Pirates. They're going to be on the road against the San Francisco Giants. We do know that Carmen Molzinski is going to be on the bump for the Pirates, and it's right now reading to be determined for the Giants. Everything says that Robbie Ray should be the starter for the Giants. I know he's involved in trade rumors, but barring something unforeseen, he should get the start. And if that is the case, I set the Pirates at a minus 114. We'll lay up to minus 113 there, plus 115 or higher. Looking at the Giants and set a total of a 7.8. So 7.5 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, and 8 or higher to the under. For Robbie Ray, you just always have to fear the command issues with him a little bit. Like a rock solid 295 ERA this far this season, but the 448 fielding dependent with 1.6 home runs, 3.2 walks allowed per 9 innings. That's a big, giant concern. And for Molzinski, he last season was primarily pitching out of the bullpen. He had some issues as a starter. He still has a 4.76 ERA, but he has pitched much better than that ERA would indicate, in my opinion. He's right now got a 249 fielding dependent. He's given up in his 34 innings, only 1 home run this year, 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And now he gets to face off against the San Francisco Giants team that is dead sinking last in terms of run creation. Rafael Devers was able to get a home run earlier in the week, so yay, verily there. But he and Willie Adames are just a big, giant waste of money for a team that, honestly, they have guys that are able to move the line and get on base. Casey Schmidt has probably been your best hitter thus far. 6 home runs. He's hitting darn near 300 for this team. Luis Arias is hitting above a 300. Jung-Ho Lee has been able to about a 265. You got Drew Gilbert in the outfield hitting about a 260. So they've been okay there. Matt Chapman has went down the toilet bowl. He's got 1 home run and it's hitting a 235. But for Rafael Devers, 3 home runs at a 265 on base. Willie Adames, 194 average, 232 on base, 3 home runs. You just need more there, and it's a shame because the Giants are a top 3 team right now in terms of bullpen ERA. They've had so many guys be able to step up, do a solid job. Caleb Killian is right now giving you a sub 3 ERA, along Keaton Wynn, JT Brubaker, Matt Gage. These guys have done a really nice job mixing and matching. Now you get Yodel Piguero off the injured list as well. And for the Pirates, they've been much improved with their bullpen as well. This is despite the fact that Dennis Santana had a sub-3 ERA last season. He's taken a little bit of a step back this season. Gregory Soto has actually been really good in the bullpen. You do have Yohan Ramirez, who's now posting up about a 4 ERA. Isaac Manson right around about a 3.70, but some of these mix and match guys like Evan Sisk, Mason Montgomery, they've done a nice job holding down the fort end. For the Pirates, they are averaging more like 4.2 runs per game away from home compared to over 5.8 runs per game at home. But this is still a lethal offense with Brandon Lau, Oniel Cruz, a combined 19 home runs. For Cruz, still hitting about a 245. Would like to see that go northward, but Lau's been able to give you 370 on base. Ryan O'Hearn is doing a great job over the line with about a 375 on base. Brian Reynolds, not a ton of power, but a 400 on base. And Connor Griffin, after a rocky, shall we say, start to his MLB career, he's back to hitting above a 250. And when it comes to the Pirates, I do think that should make them the favorite. I'm going to be willing to lay up to minus 113 with them, plus 115 or better looking at the Giants, and then 7.5 or less in on the over, 8 or higher, the under. 963, 964 on the card. It's the Orioles. They're going to be playing us the Athletics. Jacob Lopez is on the bump for the Athletics, and Kyle Baradish is on the bump for Baltimore. Baltimore, a favorite between minus 140 to minus 146, plus 124 to a plus 130. That number on the Athletics. 9 is the total, over and under, both at minus 110. I'm going to be willing to lay with the Orioles. I did set them at a minus 162. Kyle Bradish has been shaky in terms of command, but I do think that he's going to improve upon this 5.03 ERA. He has given up 1.3 home runs, 5.6 walks per 9 innings, but still solid swing and miss stuff, about 9.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. And after a good season last year, in my opinion, Jacob Lopez has just really been hitting the skids for the Sacramento A's. Right now, for Lopez, he's playing the team with a 6.60 ERA. The command for him has been even worse than that of Kyle Bradish. 6.6 walks, 1.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and last year, 11 punch-outs per 9, 6.9 thus far this season. Now, you do have an Athletics team that just has been a completely different team with their offense when they've been at home rather than away from home. Right now, averaging just under 5.1 runs per game at home. Sacramento really elevates offense. Away from home, they entered in the day on Thursday, 4th worst in the league with about 3.6 runs per game. So that's a little bit glaring. Brent Rooker has been in and out of the lineup all season long, and when he's been out there, he just hasn't produced, hitting below the middle sign of 200. Did get a home run yesterday, so we'll see if that gets him going. You do have a guy in Jacob Wilson who's been not drawing any walks whatsoever, but he, along Jeff McNeil, both hitting above a 290. That's encouraging. And Shea Langoliers as well. Shea has banged 11 home runs, darn near 400 on base. Nick Kurtz only hits about a 250 without a ton of power this season. He had a lot of power last year, but he still is drawing walks to be able to give you a 400 on base, so that's been a little bit encouraging. Athletics about league average in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got quite a few guys like Hogan Harris, Jack Perkins, Joe Kuhnel, who have been able to give you a sub 375 ERA. Mark Leiter Jr. is just absolutely terrible, and Scott Barlow, he's got a 378 ERA. It's not great, it's not terrible, but I don't have a lot of faith in him. Meanwhile, for the Baltimore Orioles, even with Ryan Helsley currently being on the injured list, this has been a bullpen that has been solid. Yunier Cano, Uncle Rico Garcia have been able to give you a sub 250 ERA. Anthony Nunez is starting to hit the skids a little bit with his ERA. Keegan Aiken just off the injured list has struggled a little bit, and I really don't trust him Grant Wolfram, but you've had Dietrich Enns be a relatively good long guy for the team, and for the Orioles, they themselves have had some struggles with their offense this season. For Baltimore, they're averaging about 4.6 runs per game. They've been better at home with about 5.1 runs per contest, and to the credit of Pete Alonso, he's back up to 7 home runs. The on-base percentage is above 325. You maybe expected a little bit more power out of Taylor Ward along with Adley Rutschman, but at the very least, both of these guys are getting on base. Rutschman over a 350 on base, Ward over a 430 on base. Had 30 home runs last season. He's nowhere near that pace this season, but that's been solid, but it's a top-heavy lineup. You've got likes of Dylan Beavers, Colton Cowser, Tyler O'Neill, Kobe Mayo, all at 225 or lower. And Alonso is still hitting below 230 if you look at the raw batting average as well. Gunnar Anderson as well, even though Gunnar Anderson, good power for the team. He's supplying 9 home runs, but hitting like a 205 with less than a 275 on base. So I do think that this is going to be a bit of a lower scoring game. Semi-total an 8.3, like the under. And for the Orioles, I'm going to take the money line here, set them at a minus 162, 965, 966 on the card. The Blue Jays play us the Angels as Reed Detmers goes for the Halos, and Dylan Cease is on the bump for Toronto. Toronto minus 156, minus 165 favorites, plus 130 to plus 135 is head number on Los Angeles. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 8. Under is minus 120, the over is even on the 7.5. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. The under is between minus 105 to a minus 110. And for the Blue Jays, I set their money line price at a minus 163. If you're looking to lay run at, right now you're getting that between plus 135 to a plus 140. I was willing to take a plus 130 or better with the run line. Now, I do like what Reed Detmers has been able to do this season. He was pitching primarily out of the bullpen last season. He's been able to turn it forward to a starter, and I recognize that the 4.28 ERA doesn't sound amazing, but 281 fielding dependent, 9.9 strikeouts to 2 walks allowed per 9 innings. He's given up between 0.7 to 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. Reed Detmers is not the issue here for the LA Angels. The Angels, their issue is the fact that they are in the bottom 5 in terms of bullpen ERA. Drew Pomeranz is posting up an ERA that's well above an 8. Nick Samlin has an ERA that's above a 10. Ryan Zefrian has not been the answer for this team. You just go down the list of guys that are not coming through. It's just absolutely rampant for this team. You really don't have anyone that's trustworthy in that bullpen. And for the Blue Jays, they've been about a league average team in terms of their bullpen ERA. They've had a few, shall we say, rough spots, as you've had Jeff Hoffman not doing an amazing job for this bullpen, and Mason Flaherty has had issues, so he's looked a little bit better here over the last week or two. But then you've got a trio of guys in Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, Braden Fisher, all supplying a sub-325 ERA. And for the Blue Jays, it has been a team that's been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. They're still dealing with Don't Call His Name, Alexander Kirk, and Addison Barger on the injured list. And the big thing for this team is that they're just not generating a lot of power. Like, if you look at strikeouts per at-bat, they're actually having the fewest strikeouts per at-bat in all of baseball. And you've got plenty of guys who move the line. Ernie Clement is hitting above a 280. Andres Gimenez is hitting at 265. You've even been able to get good production on someone like a Lennon Sosa they picked up, 255. Right now, your main power hitter is Kazuma Okamoto. He's up to a 330 on base, 10 home runs. Nobody else has more than 4 home runs. And Vlad Guerrero Jr., 400 on base, that's solid, but just 2 home runs. You expect a little bit more there. And then for the Angels, they were the biggest all-or-nothing team in baseball last season. They've been a little bit more stable this year because Mike Trout is back to being the Mike Trout that we all know and love. He's been able to launch 10-plus home runs, giving you over a 400 base, so he's been the steady Eddie guy for the team. And Joe Adell, last year he was very much an all-or-nothing hitter. He's been able to do a much better job in terms of moving the line thus far this season. 4 home runs and 3 home run robberies give you about a 260 average. Zach Neto has really been falling off. He's got just 1 home run over the last 3 weeks, and he's hitting for just a 221, albeit 335 on base. Jorge Soler, Oswald Peraza, both right around about a 340 on base, and Soler is up to 8 home runs. So he's had a little bit of a career renaissance, but Yohan Moncada, Josh Lowe, these guys hanging below 185 is an issue. Logan O'Hoppy's on the injury list, and even when he was out there, he was sitting right around the middle of the line of a 200. Travis Arno has not been great at the catcher spot, and with this bad Angels bullpen, just really can't back them. I did set my total at a 7.7 with the Blue Jays. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the run line, and I do like the 7.5 to the over. Would rather have the 7.5 to the over rather than the 8 to the under, mainly because with Dylan Cease, even though he's such a strikeout artist, he too is prone to be getting knocked out of the start a little bit early because of the walks issues. For his career, right around about 3.8 or so walks per 9 innings, and even this year, with having a 3.05 ERA, he has given up 4.2 walks per 9 innings, albeit he's only given up 1 home run thus far this season with the 13.1 punch-outs per 9, but like the 7.5 over. And I do think the Blue Jays at plus money above a plus 130 on the run line. 967, 968 on the card. It's the Rays. They're going to be on the road against the Boston Red Sox as Jesse Schultz goes for the Rays and Mason Englert is on the bump for the Rays. And the Rays, who find themselves as a underdog here of anywhere between plus 118 to a plus 122, minus 140 to minus 145. That number on the Red Sox total is 8.5 over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115. And I did set the Red Sox at a minus 146. Wouldn't want to go past like a minus 142 on the money line, but I'm going to be willing to lay. I just really am a stan of Connolly Early. This guy has been absolutely amazing for the squad ever since he got called up late in 2025 for his career 11 starts, 327 ERA. Fielding independent of a 350 with giving up just 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. He's getting 9.8 strikeouts per 9, so he's got really good, nasty stuff there. And for Jesse Schultz, he's looked like a little bit of a different pitcher this season. Thought that he was going to be pitching in a little bit more of a long roll yesterday. They push him back here to today as he's been mainly going about 4 2/3 innings. He has went above 5 innings just once thus far this season, but he's been effective. 3.18 ERA, not a strikeout artist with about 6.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but less than a home run, 2.5 walks per 9 innings, but he's been mainly working behind openers, so you could see this be a little bit of a switcheroo. They had to call up Mason Englert very, very early on to be able to give them a little bit of relief, as it has been a Rays bullpen that has been mix and match error in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, but feels like they're figuring out a little bit more. Ian Seymour is a guy that, in my opinion, should be in the starting rotation rather than in the bullpen, but that's like Cole Sulzer, Brian Baker, the former Orioles, have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Kirk Clevenger has gotten off to a rough start to the season, but he was banged up towards the beginning part of it. He's coming off the injury list. That'll be able to help them out a little bit, and this Rays lineup has been very lethal. They're in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home with Junior Caminero entering yesterday with 9 bombs, 340 on base. Yandy Diaz continues to give you a 400 on base. You've even had some of the guys like a Jonathan Aranda give you a 370 on base with 7 home runs. Chandler Simpson, no home runs, but 12 stolen bases and he's hitting a 300. That's a nice weapon to have. We were talking about Danny Vietti. This team just does such a great job in terms of stealing bases, bunting guys over. They do the little things well. Red Sox really have not been doing the little things well. I will say this was a squad that was 6th in the league in terms of run creation last season, and I do think that we're going to see some positivity here moving forward, as you got a guy in Jaron Duran who has just been so rough this year. He, Trevor Story, Caleb Durbin, Carlos Narvaez. You have so many guys hitting a 220 or lower. Andrew Marisserio I think are doing for some positivity. Masataka Yoshida in a relatively small sample size over at 4 on base, and Roman Anthony hitting the injured list. That no doubt hurts his team, but it's not like Anthony was really providing too much. Hitting a 230 with 1 home run, albeit he was drawing a lot of walks and things like that, but it's really been Wilson Contreras carrying the mail. 375 on base. He's been able to give you 8+ home runs. And then for the Red Sox bullpen, last year they were 2nd in terms of ERA. We've been seeing a little bit of regression with regards to some of these guys from a season ago. Gregory Weissert is posting up an ERA that is well above a 4. Zach Kelly has been a little bit hit or miss, but Aroldis Chapman, Tyler Semenijo, these have been guys that have given you a sub-1 ERA. You continue to have some relatively good performances out of Garrett Woodlock in the bullpen. Not quite what it was a season ago, but 377 ERA, you should be able to improve upon that a little bit. And I do think that Early is going to be able to give you a good start. I think that Schultz is going to be up for the task as well. I did set my total at 8.7 though, because I do think that there's a little bit of positivity to him for this Red Sox lineup. So do like the over, and I'm going to be willing to take the money line of the Red Sox up to about a -145, 969, 970 on the card. It is the Minnesota Twins on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. Parker Messick is on the bump for the Guardians, and Connor Prelip is going for the Twins, and the Twins who find themselves as a pretty good size underdog between +118 to a +120, -138 to -143. That number on Cleveland. 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 7.5, over is -115. The under is -105, and on the 8, the under is -120. Over is even money. So I told 7.4. I do like the under, especially if you can get an 8, as Parker Messick has just been making things a mess for opponents as far this season. He has been absolutely superb. He's getting a little bit over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, at 2.2 walks per 9, 240 ERA. And then for Connor Prelip, he's been able to do a nice job holding it down. 386 ERA in his 3 career starts, 1.3 home runs, 3.2 walks allowed per 9 innings. But the Twins, 29th in terms of bullpen ERA at a 581. That is the one trepidation that you do have to have with this under. I will say for the Cleveland Guardians, they're in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. Got it going yesterday against Seth Lugo, but you still do have a lot of guys say you just expect a little bit more from. I know that's a small sample size, but Travis Bazzana, Jose Ramirez, Kyle Manzardo, Bo Naylor, these are all guys that are hitting at 215 or lower, and really other than Ramirez, you're not getting power out of any of them. Reese Hoskins did have a home run in the previous series, but he's been a bit of a disappointment. The guys are right now carrying the mail. Chase Lauder, 6 home runs with about a 390 on base. Steven Kwan, he's hitting at 215 at the top of the lineup as well. Davis Schneemann has been hitting at 355. He's been able to do a relatively solid job. Brian Rocchio's actually moved the line, but for the Guardians, they're running into form with the bullpen as well. Last year, they were 3rd in terms of bullpen ERA, more around league average this season, but Hunter Gaddis began his season on the injured list. He's starting to round into form. Cade Smith was shaky in the first few weeks of the season. He's back below 325 ERA. Tim Aaron, I don't think has allowed a single run this far this season. Eric Sabrowski continues to be very rock solid. And on the flip side for the Minnesota Twins, I laid it out. I don't know who you can trust other than really Cody Funderburk. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but I am the likes of Taylor Rogers, Luis Garcia, Anthony Banda. They're all posting up an ERA well above a 5. Justin Topa's above a 750 right now. Cole Sands is the injured list. Eric Orze was solid with the Rays last year. He's not been solid this season. And for the Twins, this is a team that has been a top 15 team in terms of run creation, so they've been able to give you a bit of something there. I like what I've seen out of Brooks Lee, hitting above a 260. He's been able to supply 5 home runs after a shaky start to the season. You've had Byron Buxton hit like 10 home runs over the last 30 days, so he's been able to do a nice job there. And then Cody Clements along Matt Wallner last season, both had 20+ home runs. Both of these guys are hitting below a 215 right now. Lucas Shaw, he's supposed to be a guy that moves the line, gets on base, 234 average, less than a 300 on base. You just need a little bit more there. So I do think that the Guardians go out there, hold it down, and for Connor Prelip, even though he's been relatively solid here this far with that about 386 ERA, the field dependent is hovering more in that neighborhood about the mid-4s. So I do think that the Guardians get the job done here. I set them at a -168, like the Guardians on the money line. I like the under, so if I told 7.4. 971 and 72 on the card. The Tigers are on the road against the Royals. Chris with Gabe Bubich is on the bump for the Royals. Kadir Montero is on the bump for Detroit. Detroit is an underdog plus 112 to a plus 118, minus 132 to minus 143. That number on Kansas City, 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110. Set the Royals at a minus 134. I'm seeing that minus 132. I'm willing to lay it. I don't want to really go past it, but I am going to be willing to trust in Chris with the K. Bubich. Maybe this is just my irrational being a stan of Chris with the K. Bubich, but I like what I've seen out of him over the last few seasons. Last year, 255 ERA, 289 fielding, depending with a half home run and 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Not too dissimilar numbers this year. The ERA is up there with a 3.32, but 0.7 home runs, 9.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. He is very rock solid, and for Kadir Montero, it's obviously been a much better year this year than it has been the last few seasons. He has always had a career ERA well above a 4. This year it's down to a 3.48 with a 3.44 fielding dependent. Not a strikeout artist, 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1.9 walks, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. But now you do face off against a Royals team that away from home they've been dead sinking last in terms of run creation, but when they've been at home, things have been very much elevated because they moved the fences in at Kauffman Stadium. They're averaging over 5.2 runs per game. And Carter Jensen, he's been able to give you 6 home runs ever since the oversleep situation. He's been solid, not really hitting for a lot of average. And you've got Michael Massey, Lane Thomas, lying between about a 222, 230. You need a bit more there. And Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino. These two guys have been able to combine for 9 or 10 home runs, but they're both giving you an on-base percentage less than a 277, both hitting below a 200 with regards to their batting average. You need a bit more there. Bobby Witt Jr. after a slow go with regards to the power, he's up to 4 home runs over the last 3 or so weeks, 370 on base, so he's moving line. Kyle Isbell, Nick Lofton, they're finding ways on, so that helps him out. And this has been a Royals team that's been in the bottom 6 in terms of bullpen ERA. I think that we're going to see this improve. They've been dealing with the injury to Carlos Estevez. Alex Lang over a 6 ERA. He's better than this. John Schreiber's right now posting up a 386. I think that he improves a little bit there. And Matt Strahm was a nice offseason acquisition. He's starting to round into form. He and Daniel Lynch give you a sub 335 ERA. So I like what these guys are able to bring to the table. And for the Tigers, it's a bullpen that is going to be seeing a lot more work now that Tariq Skubal's on the injured list. They're probably going to need to go with a little bit of bullpen madness. And Framber Valdez suspended as well. Not helping that Will Vest is on the injured list. Tyler Holton along with Brian Herter last year at sub 350 ERAs, and Herter's been amazing in this bullpen, but they might need to have him as a really long bulk guy and a super long reliever. Holton, meanwhile, is about a 5 ERA. I like the fact that they've got Bert Smith back in the bullpen, but Kenley Jansen is just unreliable at this old age. He's been unreliable the last few seasons, and for the Tigers, it could be a little bit of hit or miss offense. Right now, Kerry Carpenter, along with Spencer Torkelson and Dylan Dingler, lead the way with 6 home runs apiece, but Carpenter is hitting just a 210. You expect that to go northward. Torkelson at 207. Now, both of these guys respectable on base percentages, especially Torkelson at a 332, but that's been a little bit jarring. Gleyber Torres moves the line, about a 390 on base. Kevin McGonigal, 390 on base. Riley Green, 395 on base. So you've got plenty of guys that are getting on, but it feels like it's a little bit of a herky-jerk lineup right now. Matt Vierling hasn't been able to give you a whole lot of anything. Wenzel Perez, Zach McKinstry, these guys have been awful, and McKinstry has dealt with quite a bit of injury, so I do think that the Royals do go out there, get the job done, willing to lay up to minus 133 on that money line, and did somebody total at 8.7 here at the 8.5 with the fences moved in, like the over, 973, 974. The Seattle Mariners are on the road, facing off against the Chicago White Sox. Sean Burke is on the bump for the Southsiders. Emerson Hancock goes for Seattle. Seattle, a favorite of minus 135 to minus 140, plus 113 to plus 120. That number on the Southsiders, 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 7.5, over is minus 120. The under is even. On the 8, the under is minus 115 to minus 120. The over is between even minus 105. And when it comes to Seattle, I did set their money line price at a minus 126. If you're looking to lay a run half with them, I find that between plus 120 to plus 125. I personally need at least a plus 137 to be able to take a shot here. And as a matter of fact, if you're looking to take a run half in this game, you're finding right around about minus 140 to minus 145. And at a minus 143 or less, I'd be willing to take a run half with the Chicago White Sox, because I do think that both of these starters do go out there, give you a relatively good effort. Now, I do think that the total has gone a little bit too low, because with Emerson Hancock, while he's had a really nice start to the season, I do think that there's going to be a little bit of regression with the fact that he's at a 259 ERA. That fielding dependent was more around a 369, 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings is a little bit concerning, but do like the 9.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. Meanwhile, for Sean Burke, he's actually been down with his swing and miss stuff, but he's also been down with the walks. Last year, he was giving out 4.2 walks per 9 innings. That's down to 1.8 walks per 9 innings. He has seen the 8.9 strikeouts per 9 innings go down to 7.3, but rock solid 272 ERA. Now, the trepidation that you do have to have with the White Sox is that this bullpen is back in the bottom 10 in terms of ERA, and Seranthony Dominguez hasn't been awful this year, but hard to trust in a team whose closer is Seranthony Dominguez. Jordan Leisure is leisurely giving you an ERA that is well above a 5 right now. You've got Sean Newcomb as your long guy who hasn't been awful this year, but again, I don't have a lot of faith there. And for the White Sox, this can be a very all or nothing lineup. They're in the bottom 5 in terms of batting average, but they're a top 8 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis with Mutaka Murakami 14 bombs on a 370 on base. Colson Montgomery's hitting at 227, but hey, 9 home runs. Miguel Vargas is hitting at 215, but 7 home runs. So you got these guys going, but you still have Edgar Quiro, Luan Acuna, both hitting below a $185. They no longer have Lynan Sosa. He's out on the Toronto Blue Jays, so that's an issue. Chase Meadroth, he's been able to give you about a 350 on base, so that's been relatively respectable. And then on the other side of things for the Seattle Mariners, they are averaging over 5 runs per game away from home last season. They're on the bottom 8 right now in terms of run creation away from home. Cal Raleigh is up to 7 home runs, but hitting a $175 with a 258 on base, that's just not cutting it. Josh Naylor is starting to get back online, but still, 298 on base with 4 home runs. You expect a little bit more there. Julio Rodriguez, he always has a rough first few weeks of the season. Back up to hitting at 265 home runs. This is a guy that we all know and love. Luke Raley, he's been able to give you 6 home runs, but then some of these guys like a Leo Rivas, who's a little bit of a mix and match guy. Mitch Garver, who's been filling out a little bit at the catcher spot with Cal Raleigh DHing. These guys have not given you anything, and Rob Refsnyder is just not getting on base to save his life. Now for the Seattle Mariners, this is a top 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. This despite the fact that you've had Matt Brash hit the injured list, and your main closer, Andres Munoz, has not been its dominant self this year. He's up to a 6 ERA, but everyone else has been solid. Like, you've got Edward Bizardo, Cooper Criswell, Jose Ferrer, Gabe Spire, who's dealing with a little bit of injury as well. All sub 3 ERA. Casey Lugumina has not been the world's worst addition as well, so it's an interesting spot here. I did set my total at 8.2. I do think that the Mariners see a little bit of positivity with that road offense, and I do think that both of these starters see their ERAs start to increase, so like the over. But for the White Sox, if I could get like a minus 140 on getting a run and a half, I need a better price on the Seattle Mariners. I'd be willing to take a run and a half with the White Sox / get a plus 128 or better on the money line, which I don't think is coming. So most likely going to land on getting a run and a half here with the White Sox to go along with that over. 975, 976 on the card. The Astros are on the road. They're facing off against the Reds. Yes, we are on to Cincinnati. He's on to Nick Lodolo, making his first start of the season at the big league level. Mike Burrows goes for the Astros. The Astros do find themselves as an underdog here between plus 105 to a plus 110. Minus 124 to minus 132 is that number on Cincinnati. 9.5 is the total. Under is minus 115 to minus 120. The over is between even to minus 105. I like the Reds here. I set them at a minus 142. For Nick Lodolo, he looked very sharp at the minor league level in his 3 minor league rehab appearances. He was posting up a 150 ERA. The strikeout stuff, it was very much back up for him, and I think that he's going to go out there against an Astros team that's been a top 10 team in terms of run creation and just look like his normal self. Last season in 2025 at the big league level, 333 ERA. Did give up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but 1.8 walks, 9 strikeouts per 9, so love to see that. Mike Burrows, well, he's burrowed up to a 597 ERA, 1.9 home runs, 3.1 walks allowed per 9 innings, and the bullpen behind him is somehow, someway even worse. 6.29 bullpen ERA for the Houston Astros out of 30 teams. That is a nice hearty number 30. Like, I don't know who you can really trust other than perhaps Kai Wei Tang in this bullpen right now. He's actually been a relatively solid long guy for this team, but man, you just take a look at all these guys like Jason Alexander, no relation to Seinfeld, Brian Abreu, JP France whenever they've thrown him out there. They've had Ryan Wise, who's been seeing some long relief as well. Jaden Murray. These guys all have 6 ERAs or higher. Like, it's rough. Angel De Los Santos is one of their better relievers at a 480. And then for the Astros, you've had Jordan Alvarez look in peak form right now. 12 home runs, 400 on base. He's been fine. Christian Walker, 9 home runs, 380 on base. He's hitting at 300. Cam Smith, not a great average, but he's starting to give you a little bit of something with 9 home runs. Jose Altuve isn't quite what he once was. 330 on base, 3 home runs, but he's not a shell of himself yet either. They do lose Carlos Correa. That's a big issue for his team. And Bryce Matthews, he's been able to have 4 home runs and 75 at-bats. Not really moving the line, but overall, the offense is fine, and for the Reds, you've seen Cousin Sal Stewart be a little bit hot and cold here to begin the season, but he, along with LA De La Cruz, have done a great job in terms of carrying the mail for this team. They entered into yesterday both with 10 home runs apiece, both giving you about a 330 to a 340 on base, and then you've had a few guys step up, like Spencer Steer is now hitting a 250. Nathaniel Lowe, after a slow start to the season, 6 home runs, 350 on base. Will Benson is out giving you about a 345 on base. Whenever they've had Dane Myers out there, I feel like he should be hitting much more. He's been pretty pretty solid. He's been able to hit for about a 377 on base, but you got the likes of a Tyler Stevenson, Cabrian Hayes, TJ Friedel, Reese Hines, so many guys hitting below 200. JJ Bleday might be a nice find as well. And for the Reds, they're the first 4 weeks of the season, they were like number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA. They've regressed to being more around a league average team in terms of bullpen ERA. They're right now dealing with Emilio Pagan being on the injury list. Honestly, I think that that's a good thing for them. Graham Ashcraft completely lit the game on fire against the Cubs a few days ago, but overall has been able to supply sub-2 ERA. Brock and Rolberg, sub-325 ERA. Tony Santillan has been relatively solid along Sam Moll, so I do think that the bullpen is going to do a nice job to get the job done here. Somebody told 9.1. I like the 9 after the under, and for the Reds, one left to minus 141 on the money line. 977, 978 on the card. The Yankees are on the road against the Brewers. Jacob Mizorowski is on the bump for the Crew, and Max Fried goes for the Yankees. Yankees between minus 134 to minus 143 favorites. Between plus 112 to plus 120 is that number on the Bird Crew. 7 is the total. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between minus 105 to a even money price. And with the Yankees, I set their money line price at a minus 128. If you're looking to lay a run off with them, you're going to be finding that in the neighborhood of about a plus 130 to a plus 120. For me personally, I need at least a plus 128 to be able to take a shot on the Brewers on the money line. And with regards to the run line, I would much rather just take a run off with them if I can get it at like a minus 145 or better. And right now I'm seeing that right around about a minus 143 to a minus 145. So I'm going to land on taking a run off with the Brewers. The Brewers just seemingly always find a way to lose by 1 run against better teams. I'm looking at their series against the LA Dodgers in Game 1 last year in the NLCS. But that's it for Jacob Mizorowski. He has been an absolute strikeout artist for this team. He does still have the walks issue for his career, about 4 walks per 9 innings. That's actually lowered to a little bit under 4 thus far this season, but my goodness, he's getting 14 strikeouts per 9 innings, which leads all qualifying National League pitchers, and I do think that he's going to go out there and do a solid job against this Yankees lineup, but I do think that there's going to be run creation here. You've got a guy, Max Fried, who's been very rock solid. He's given up just 1 home run in his starts thus far this season. That's over a 52-inning span, but it's not like the Brewers are hitting the deep ball. They're actually second worst in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. So what has been very good for Max Fried in terms of getting a 2.39 ERA gets mitigated a little bit. Fried only gets about 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, and for the Brewers, even though this team is right around about league average in terms of their bullpen ERA, much of that was due to Trevor McGill having some issues towards the beginning part of the season. Saw us over a 5 ERA. Ebner Uribe was a little bit, shall we say, shaky as well, but Brian Fitzpatrick, Aaron Ashby, DL Turnett up all. These guys have been stabilizers with a sub-3 ERA. They're dealing with Jared Koenig being on the injury list, but for the Brewers, reinforcements have arrived. You've got Andrew Vaughn, along Jackson Chourio back in the lineup, and they've just found a way to mix and match in terms of the deep ball. Gary Sanchez, Bryce Harang, Jake Bowers, all at 5 home runs apiece. Harang is giving you a 440 on base. This is one of the best base stealing teams in all baseball. William Contreras continues at about a 285. Brandon Lockridge is able to give you 355 on base. Gary Mitchell at 365 on base. Gary Sanchez, 370 on base. So you just have guys that are moving the line, and for the Yankees, they're just a little bit more of an all-or-nothing team. Aaron Judge is on pace for 60-plus home runs, 15 bombs. He has been absolutely incredible thus far this season. Ben Rice has been dealing with a little bit of injury. When he's been out there, 12 home runs, over a 450 on base, but he's a guy that is very questionable for the series as of right now, and the infielders just have not been able to step up for the team. Not an infielder, but Trent Grisham, he's been awful out there in the field. He's hitting a $182. That's an issue, but then you look at the likes of a Ryan McMahon, Paul Goldschmidt, Austin Wells, Jazz Chisholm. As a matter of fact, entirety of the catcher spot, only at 230 or lower. You just need a little bit more there. And John Carlos Sane going on the injury list this year. Now for the Yankees, they've improved to being a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. I recognize that Camilo Doval has been a big giant disappointment for the team, but David Bednar was a relatively nice add at the trade deadline last season. I like what I've seen of some of these mix and match guys as well. Ryan Yarbrough is a nice long guy that's able to give you sub 375 ERA. Jake Bird is not necessarily panned out for the team, but you've had Tim Mill be able to supply a sub 2 ERA along with Brent Hendricks, so it's an interesting spot here. I do think that the Brewers do find a way to generate just enough offense in this game for the over, so my total is 7.6, so like the over, and for the Brewers, minus 145 or better, I'm going to take a run half with them. Don't necessarily want that money line. 979, 980 is how we wrap it up. The Cubs, they are going to be on the road against the Rangers. Cooper Rocker is on the bump for the Rangers, and Ben Brown goes for the Cubs. This is a game that's off the board. We did not know if Brown was going to be starting or not until Thursday evening, but I've got my handicap. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 112 on the Rangers money line, plus 114 or better. Looking at the Cubs, and made a total of an 8.2, 8 or less, like the over, 8.5 or higher, the under for Cooper Rocker. It's been a tumultuous, shall we say, start to his MLB career. 471 ERA thus far this season, which is actually better than when it was last season, but 7.5 strikeouts, 3.1 walks per 9 innings, 398 fielding independent. We should see a little bit of improvement there, and what does help him out quite a bit is the fact that he pitches out there in Arlington, where it's really been suppressing offense. It's a top 5 ballpark right now in terms of suppressing offense, and you see that with the Rangers home and road splits. They're averaging about 4.5 to 4.6 runs per game away from home, fewer than 2.7 runs per game at home. That is dead sinking last in all baseball. And look at Rocker's career splits. 253 home ERA with 1 home run allowed in 53 and a third innings. He's given up 14 home runs and 51 in a third innings with an 8.06 ERA away from him. So that's wild. And then for Ben Brown, he's been really good out of the bullpen thus far this season. A 2.10 ERA. He's got good swing and miss stuff. This year only about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but for his career, 10 punch-outs per 9. When he started last year, it was a big, giant issue for him. There are some guys that are just meant to be long guys. I think that could be the case for Brown. They're really just forcing him into action because Matthew Boyd gets injured sitting down to play with his kids. Go figure there in terms of weird baseball injuries. And for the Cubs, they've just had a lot of injuries in general in that bullpen. Fortunately, Daniel Palencia only had to come in for 7 pitches yesterday, so they're going to have them all available. Jacob Webb, sub 3.25 ERA last season with the Rangers, but Kale Theobar, Hunter Harvey, Porter Hodge, Riley Martin, you just go down the list of injuries. Jordan Wicks, it's been rough for them to say the least. And Walker, Texas Rangers, they're currently numero uno in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've had so many mix and match guys be solid in this bullpen. Tyler Alexander, Jalen Beeks are guys that are able to lend length. They're at a sub 3 ERA. They did have to come into the game yesterday, but you also have Gavin Collier, who's I believe not given up a single run thus far this season. I recognize that it's been a little bit of a downer thus far this season after he had a sub 2 ERA for Cole Winn, but he should be able to round into form. Jacob Junis has been able to give you sub 3.25 ERA. Again, for the Rangers, they hit relatively solidly away from home, but at home, it's not been there. Jake Berger, Corey Seager have both been able to give you about 6 home runs apiece, but neither of these guys are really hitting above a 215 right now. You've got Evan Carter has just not been able to get online. Wyatt Langford is on the injured list. Josh Young is hitting above a 300. Brandon Nimmo, that's working out really well. Marcus Semien has been rough with the Mets. Nimmo's come in. He's been able to move the line for the team, but Andrew McCutchen, Jock Peterson, they're not providing you with a ton either, so it's an interesting circumstance here. 8 or less, I do like the over. 8.5 or higher, the under, because I do think that with the Cubs, they're going to be able to do a solid job with their offense, but again, I think that their offense is going to be suppressed in this ballpark. You've been able to get good production out of Nico Horner. He's actually up to 4 home runs. He's been able to give you a 360 on base. Alex Bregman, once again, a little bit of a slow start to the season, but also Michael Conforto, a pair of home runs in the previous series. Pico Armstrong, after a rough start to the season, he's had 3 home runs over the last 15 or so days. Ian Happ, anything but hapless, 8+ home runs, 370 on base. Say Suzuki, since coming back, has been solid, but 8 or less like the over, 8.5 or higher, the under, and then minus 112 or better. Looking at the Rangers, plus 114 or better, the Cubs, and that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Danny Vietti, who does such great work over at CBS Sports and the Wake and Rake podcast. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like sharing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter /X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters DM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every game every day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.